Welcome to the Balmoral Hall School roundtable session. I am Colleen Braun, Associate Director of Admissions for Balmoral Hall School, and your moderator for this session. Today, we are going to provide you with information that will assist you in your decision-making for your daughter's education. I would like to introduce our panelists for the roundtable today. First, Nancy Siprick, who graduated from Balmoral Hall in 1986, following in the footsteps of her mother. And continuing tradition, her two daughters are current students at the school. Nancy is very active in the life of Balmoral Hall as past chair of the school's Board of Governors and as a member of Balmoral Hall's Foundation Board. Aisha Khan graduated from Balmoral Hall in 1991 and is a notable human rights lawyer, CEO of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and is current board chair of United Way Winnipeg. Aisha has three daughters at Balmoral Hall, one of whom will be graduating in 2022. And Laura Wetton graduated with the class of 2003 and was a lifer at Balmoral Hall, attending for 14 years. She has two daughters at school in our childcare and kindergarten programs, and is a member of our Balmoral Hall School's Board of Governors and co-chairs the school's Finance Committee. She is a chartered professional accountant working for CPA Manitoba, the regulatory body for CPA members and candidates in Manitoba. So welcome to all of our roundtable panelists. We're really looking forward to hearing your insights about Balmoral Hall today. So I'm going to dive right in with alumni questions, and all three of you are alumni and all three of you are parents. So it's wonderful to have all of these generational sort of people in our school, and we appreciate all the perspectives that you can bring to us. So Laura, the first question is for you. What did you appreciate most about the school during your time here? And how has your perspective on that changed now that you have some distance from the school?
Well, there's so many things that I could list here. So I tried to kind of focus on a few when I was thinking in advance about what to say. Obviously, I think when you're going through it, you appreciate different things than, 10, 20, 30 years in the future. But a lot of it I experienced firsthand, and I recognized the opportunities right away after I graduated. So one of those was just the various opportunities that the school gives you to kind of see where your passions are, see where your interests are, being able to explore so many different things. Obviously, the types of things change over the years. I know I was able to explore a lot of different languages, might be different now with technology and all of the things that the school offers in that field, and our new Center for Arts and Design. But I think that just those various opportunities that the school gives you are so amazing for the girls, and also just gave me the chance to see what I liked before I even experienced university. And one of the things that I still appreciate to this day is just the preparation for real world career opportunities and career situations. Just a couple examples are just the uniform, something as simple as the uniform, which going through it, you kind of curse at it and you think maybe, oh, I wish I could just wear whatever I want. But as soon as I entered university and had to wear a suit, I appreciated so much that I had worn a suit for every number one for my last 14 years, right? And just being able to get exposure to interviews, the panel interviews, things like that. My colleague or my peers at university had never gone through anything like that. So just things like that really, really still stand out to this day. And I talk about the fact that I never had to feel uncomfortable wearing a suit in my business experiences in university and early career. Those are the two that mainly stand out for me.
I think that's amazing. I think uniform is kind of the great equalizer. And I think it's so important that we have that in our school, and the families are able to not worry about what their children are going to wear from day to day. But interesting that you mentioned that perspective of going into university and knowing how to wear a suit. I think that's pretty incredible. And with the tech in the school too, how far we've come with tech, absolutely. Our Benedictson Center highlights that. But also the internship program. So even allowing more interesting things for the girls to explore opportunities for the future. So thank you for that. Nancy, how about you? What did you appreciate most about the school during your time here?
Well, I think Laura has said most of them actually. All the things she said. What I can add to that, perhaps, is just a sense of comfort and family, like very nurturing, but just such a family. And I was away for many years from the school. And then when my first daughter, Laura, started nursery school when she was 3, I sort of walked through the front doors with her, and it just felt like I was putting on an old pair of slippers, like I was walking into my house, off with my shoes, into my comfy slippers, and we just kind of were off and running again. And it's just that homey comfort feeling, very nurturing, but also like really prepared me for university, for the real world, as Laura said, and wearing a suit and interviews and just public speaking.
Yeah, and I think that is an amazing perspective to have now. And I think that perspective remains with girls that are graduating today. The help that they're getting for university going forward is incredible. Yeah. Great, thank you. So Nancy, we're going right back to you. What, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates Balmoral Hall School from other schools?
Well, that's a great question. And, I think the most important thing is we are so forward thinking. We've been through a couple different strategic plans over the last, 7 or 8 years. And as chair of the board during one of them and on the board during both of them, it really allowed the board really allowed the school to be very forward thinking. So for instance, when the pandemic occurred, and we went to online learning, we had already been talking about that 2 or 3 years prior. And so I think it was far easier for us to facilitate that. We literally flipped the switch. And I know the teachers in behind, everybody was working like crazy, but it wasn't something that we hadn't thought of already. And thinking about the school outside the brick and mortar, because there's a lot more to school than that. And so I think between the forward thinking and just being able to work through those 2 strategic plans really allowed us, the first one allowed us to really get going forward. The second one allowed us to think sky is the limit and just go for it and give our girls the best all girls education possible.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about our Benedictson Center, that is another great example of forward thinking. The school had been planning this building for many years before it came to fruition. And so the Arts Center, the design that we have, design and tech, and a performing arts studio, all of those things have just incorporated seamlessly into potential for girls for the future. Yeah, great, thank you.
I agree.
Laura, how about for you? What most differentiates Balmoral Hall School from others?
So I would say the one that really calls out to me the most is just that university preparation, or even just career preparation at such an early age. I'm just amazed going through now as a parent of a child in childcare and my other daughter's going into kindergarten, the things that they do with them at not like at 3 or 4 years old. It's absolutely incredible. They're giving presentations to their class at age 4. That is something that will benefit them, whether they end up being very confident public speakers naturally or not. It'll benefit them so greatly. And just they're teaching so much about mental health and being well-rounded. And that's the type of thing that, prepares you for university, but prepares you for the rest of your career and your life. And the fact that they are doing that at such a young age, I know it's just every year that they go up in school, I know I'm going to see that more and more and more. So that's the thing that really differentiates for me. And also, to go back to the forward thinking, the exposure to different experiential learning opportunities. I know as Nancy will remember a few years ago on the board, one of the girls in senior school came and presented to us something that she had experienced at one of her, I can't remember if it was like an internship or something, but she had visited a workplace and she came to us with a VR headset. And this was 3 or 4 years ago when you didn't really hear much about VR headsets. Guess what? Now everybody has VR headsets. And she had been exposed to that and went to the workplace and saw how they work and saw how they design them and see how they code them and do all of this stuff. And she was just in senior school, maybe grade 10. And so just those type of experiences, I think, really make the school stand out.
Yeah, I think the internship program in grade 11 is one thing that really differentiates us. And I love that you mentioned the research projects and presentation that girls do at a young age. There was a kindergarten girl this year who did a presentation on evaporation, and she did a month of research on how evaporation cycle worked and drew it out and then presented it to her classmates. So amazing stuff happens right from a young age. Yeah, thank you. This question is very interesting. Aisha, if the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be in only 3 words, and why?
A difficult question.
Yes.
3 words. I went back and forth. Okay, so I'll explain. So strong, supportive, and a visionary, which isn't a descriptor, but I'll explain. So strong, I would say there's a stability in the school, and you feel that. Yes, it's an old school, it has a history, but that grounding, that foundation, you feel in tradition, but also just in the approach the school has to positioning itself to go forward. So I feel that whether it's through curriculum, whether it's through tradition and some of the activities, but there's something solid there, which feels stable. And I think for kids and looking back at my time there, I mean, that hasn't wavered. That feeling's still there. I would say supportive, and that's just to echo many of the other, for many of the reasons that have already been stated. There's a feeling of family, there's a feeling of support. I can't think of, from an alumni perspective, what else you want for your kids is to know that there are people who are looking out for them. And there, whether it's their individual classroom teacher or just other people in the school who know them, know who they are. That's huge, I think. And then that piece about looking ahead or being visionary, to the points that Nancy made, like the last year has confirmed more than ever that BH was positioned already thinking about the future of education and remote learning and all of those things. And I think in many times throughout the history of the school, it's been ahead of the game in terms of what's next, whether it was STEM or STEAM or all of those concepts. And it's funny because that stability balances out with this looking forward, but I think the school has, the personality of the school is able to balance both.
Yes, thank you. Laura, how about you? 3 words.
I was wondering if I was going to have the same words, but actually they're different, but complement what you just said as well. My 3 are, maybe they're not personality traits necessarily, but the 3 words are well-rounded, confident, and empathetic. So well-rounded, just, if I think about a person, I think, if they're well-rounded, it means that they've had experience in very many things and they're not just focused on academics. They're not just focused on a sport. I think the school is really, really good at exposing the girls to a lot, but also recognizing that it's important to do a lot of things. You might not be the best at a particular subject, but if you have something outside of school that really is passionate to you and it's your hobby, then that's great, right? So that's well-rounded, confident. I know Nancy spoke about this too, the public speaking opportunities, and like I was mentioning, the junior kindergarten presentations, just giving those opportunities to the girls to really, really be confident. And they don't have to be, you know, the best public speaker in the entire world, but you should be able to get up in front of a room and be able to say something without being too nervous or too scared. And how do you do that? Is it getting exposure to it? And the school is so amazing at giving the girls the confidence that they need for life skills. And then empathy. I think it's really important nowadays. And I know just in society, we've seen a lot more of focus on empathy. And it's a really big topic in childcare and junior kindergarten. I'm sure that the school will be fostering those kinds of conversations with the older kids as well. But I think it's really important that that a person has empathy, and the teachers are empathetic at the school to the students, to each other. They teach the girls to be empathetic to each other. And I think that's just it's so lovely to see. And so that would be my 3.
Yeah, I think the visionary piece to me connects with all these things so well, because the visionary piece is what connects us to allow the girls to be independent thinkers, but learn to work collaboratively, and also to have empathy for others. So I think that all those pieces kind of mesh together that give you the feel of the school. And already in our conversation so far, the 3 of you didn't meet and discuss, but we're coming on some themes about the school that I think can be felt in every grade and with every parent cohort. And so I think it's really great to see this kind of melding of ideas into that one idea that is the visionary piece of the school and always looking forward. So on to the next question, another tough one. Aisha, what is one thing you would change about the school for the better if you had to choose something?
It is a tough question. So I went back and forth just thinking about what it would be. And where I landed was reach. And so by that, I mean it in 2 different ways. So one, I think there's still people, there's people who don't know about all the wonderful things that this school has and does. So just that the breadth of people who know, right, who know the school and understand it in kind of a deeper way. I also think of the school's reach in terms of when I think about from a student perspective, it's reach into community. And I think it does a lot of amazing things to connect, whether it's from a service perspective or, bringing together people, some of the examples about, really interesting innovation so that students are prepared to succeed. But I think we can always do more. I think we can always do better about reaching into community and having relationships, because I think relationships within the school are so strong. And the more that we can sort of make space for those relationships being solid relationships in the community, ties to the other part of just breadth, right? So yeah, that's what I would say.
And Winnipeg is such a tight-knit community that people know each other from all walks of life. You know people and make connections all the time. And so building some of those connector pieces, I think, is so important, that reach out. I love that idea. Yeah. Nancy, how about for you? What's one thing you would change?
Sorry. Mine just sort of continues on with Aisha, and that is telling our stories. We need to be better at telling our stories and telling the world what we're doing, what we're achieving, what the kids are achieving. I think oftentimes we shy away from that a little bit because that's sort of who we've been. But I think that's one way to reach out to people, is by something like this, where we're sharing our stories and our successes. And I think that's a great way for us to succeed. And I think that's one real important thing that I would change.
And I think we have 3 success stories right here as our panelists. And so, yep, you're right. We've got the success stories here, and we need to continue telling the stories about our current students who are very successful as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So Nancy, right back to you. What would families find most surprising about Balmoral Hall?
Well, it's something I learned this summer, and it was that Balmoral Hall was rated the number one independent school in Winnipeg.
Yes.
End of story.
And we should be prouder of those things.
We should be. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. Wonderful. Enough said. Aisha, how about you?
Yeah, that's a hard one to top. I would say what families would find most surprising, in as much as the school is set up to enable its students to succeed, it's a pretty normal place. It's a pretty down-to-earth place within its walls, right? And I think sometimes people on the outside, they see all the success and some of the wonderful things we're able to offer in the programs and all of that shiny stuff, which we want for our kids. But when you come within the school, it feels like a pretty grounded, down-to-earth place. Which I think sometimes is surprising that you don't realize until you've spent some time there and got to know the faculty and students.
Yeah, I think you've touched on something really important, at least from an admissions perspective too. When we were giving virtual tours, we couldn't give the feel of the school. And so those families that entrusted their children to us over the past year that could never even enter the doors of the school until they'd committed fully to coming. I have so much respect and admiration for the trust they put in us. But as they've been coming in and touring the school in the summer, there's a feel here that you can't replicate in any other way. You have to come into the halls to feel it, to feel the normalcy, but to feel that it is a community. And it sort of breathes out of the walls. Yeah. Nancy, back over to you. What advice would you give to students entering the school?
Well, the first thing that I can guarantee them is that they are receiving the best all-girls education out there, period. I would also tell them, hey, get involved. There's a lot of stuff to get involved in. And just enjoy all that the school has to offer. We have so much to offer in so many areas, such great teaching staff, support staff. Just get involved, take it all in. You're getting the best of the best, and enjoy that. Ride the wave.
Ride the wave, yeah. So as kind of a, an intergenerational family of Balmoral Hall students, can you just share a little bit about what you think the all-girls school advantage is?
Well, I think a couple of things. It eliminates the boys, so the girls can just focus. I think it eliminates some of the anxiousness girls have in terms of, maybe not wanting to put their hand up in class to answer because boys are there. That eliminates a whole area. I think they've also, science has proven that boys mature at a different rate than girls. Boys, maybe learn a little differently than girls do. This allows us to just sort of drill down right into how girls learn, how mature they are at certain ages, what we can give them, what they can handle. And that's just our specialty. That's what we do. And we want to find out their passion and help them succeed, whatever that is. We're not focusing on one specific area. We're trying to help those girls find their passion and succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. Aisha, back to the original question. What advice would you give to students just entering the school? And if you do want to follow up with any all-girls comments too, that would be great.
To the students, I would say it's going to be okay. I think that it's having watched my three girls enter kind of midway through their schooling. They came in, all three of them came in the grade 6-7 range. It is different and it feels different, but it'll be okay. Like they'll find their path within the school. I think one of the wonderful things about the school is there are so many things, like to Nancy's point, there's so many offerings, there's a lot going on that every student can find their way. Is it sports? Is it a bit of that? Is it robotics? Like there's really is a place for everyone and every kind of personality or student. So that's what I would tell the students. Yeah, and reflecting on an all girls education, that was a big driver for me, and I'm probably jumping ahead in other questions to other questions you'll ask, but there is something very I realized that with hindsight about my education and you know, and sure, there are some things that are not quite as great about an all girls education. And I see that and I hear about it from my kids. But at the end of the day, I think that environment for learning and when you're developing all the skills that you need to get out there in the world, it's really unique and it's a nurturing environment that plays to the strengths of how girls and women learn, which I think is pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. I have a friend who's a university professor, and she has told me that she always knows who the Balmoral Hall School girls are
Mhm,
because they're the ones who are unafraid to raise their hands.
mhm. I've heard
I-
that.
Yeah, I think that's such a testament to what happens in these walls. Yes.
Mhm.
So now I'm going to ask you all to flip your hats from alumni to parents. So these are going to be parent-specific questions. So Aisha, can you tell us why you chose the school originally? And in what ways is the school what you expected? And in what ways is it not?
So we originally chose the school. I mean, certainly because I always thought that if I could, I wanted my girls to have an all girls education environment just to see how they would thrive in that environment. And so far, so good. I had, as an alumni, I always had that in my mind. If I have girls, I hope that I'll be able to send them there. I hope I'll be in Winnipeg, all of those things. So that was huge. And I knew, I already knew just that it had had such a positive impact on me. And so I wanted that for my girls. And I always said, you know, just having kids generally, what do you want for your kids? I want them to be confident. So that was a big part of my tie to the school. Was it what I expected in that way? Absolutely, right? They are growing up to be confident young women. So that I expected, and I'm pleased that that's what it was. And what's different? I mean, I left the school a long time ago. It's changed. It's not the school it was in the 90s or the 80s when I was there. And so that's all changed for the better. That's just seeing that the school has evolved and it is looking ahead and it is, you know, it's doing what it needs to do to yeah.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of supervising grade ones for extended day in the mornings this past year. And so one day, you talk about the confidence. One day I went out for lunch and I came back with my little lunch bag from a local place here. And two of the girls stopped me. Hello, Miss Colleen. Did you have your lunch break? Yes, I did. What did you have for lunch? Well, I haven't eaten it yet. Oh, well, where did you go? So it was this full-on adult conversation with 6-year-olds. And it was just so shocking to me that they can have those skills already to have that great conversation and the confidence to approach me about my lunch. Yeah, so that was a really neat experience this year. So Nancy, why did you choose the school originally? In what ways was it what you expected? In what ways was it not?
Well, like Aisha said, I'd always thought if I had girls, They would just naturally go. They would be the third generation of my family. My mom and I both, were recipients of this wonderful education. And as Aisha said, it has evolved over all these years. I mean, my mom sees a huge change. Aisha and I, we see also a big change. But I have to say, when we did have girls, my husband alma mater was another independent school in Winnipeg. And so this conversation started and he said, well, what about my school? And I said, yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, we booked the meeting and we came to BH and we had a grade 5 student. So Laura was 3 years old, entering into the nursery program, which it was nursery in those days. And we had a grade 5 student talk to us about the school and tour us around. And as we were walking back to the car very quietly, my husband said, I get it. She was so confident. She was so sure of herself. To have a grade 5 student tour new people around the school and just blow our socks off was unbelievable. And that for him, I already kind of knew because having had the education, but for him, that sealed the deal. He said, I totally get it now. That's where we're going. The girls are confident. It's very comfortable in there. Again, it was like putting on my comfy slippers, nurturing, and just the amazing education.
So there was no selling required once he met some of our great students.
You sold yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love having the girls give the tours. They are amazing.
They are.
So Laura, next question for you. What is the biggest impact the school has had on your child?
So obviously my kids are younger. They're 2 and 5. So the younger one just started childcare in the 2-year-old program in January. And my older daughter has been at the school for 3 years and she's going into kindergarten. But honestly, I'm not even, I can't even say enough things about how they have both flourished at the school. It's absolutely incredible to see. So again, I'm mostly speaking about childcare and junior kindergarten, but Alina, my younger one, she's just been there for 6 months. And I mean, she was pretty good at talking before she went. Her motor skills were not so great. So we knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge for her. But even a few months after starting, full-on conversations with her, the teachers just interact with her in such a more mature way than I ever really kind of thought that gave her credit for at home. And so, apparently she asks them all questions and she asks all the other girls questions, and she's just so much more inquisitive than I ever thought she was. And so she is able to express her feelings more than I ever gave her credit for. And this is just after 6 months, right, of being in the program. And just, I can't even say enough good things about junior kindergarten as well, because my older one, I mean, she's not even in kindergarten and she reads fluently. She's been reading books to me over the summer. I knew she was pretty good. Like, she's always been a little bit, she likes to practice and she likes to do things at home. So I will say she's motivated. But I'm just blown away. She reads full books at age 5 and she's not even in kindergarten. And then she just, the impact of the friendships she's made over the last year, I mean, and the families that I've been able to connect through that as well, has just been an impact on all of us. So again, a few examples, but they just have completely flourished as very young kids.
Yeah, we definitely develop readers here, which I think is really important. I mean, that's a lifelong skill to have. And we could do an entire session on our BH Beginnings program for 2 and 3-year-olds. There is so much to talk about there. Amazing program. Aisha, how about for you? What is the biggest impact the school has had on your children?
Well, I have three very different children, so they all have different personalities. And if I could find so the thought to bring that together is, I think that they feel comfortable exploring who they are at the school. So whether that's what their professional or academic pursuits will be, or what their personality, how it's forming and refining through their teenage years, or just exposure to other activities, I think there is a comfort that it's okay to explore all of those things. And I think the school is a big part of that. And that's kind of a soft environmental thing, I think, more than it's always, because there's lots of direct motivation to, what will you be in the future, and career and university planning from a very young age, which I think is wonderful. But it's almost more than that, is what I see in them. It's just the environment in which they feel like it's okay to be whoever they're going to be, do whatever they're going to be, and it doesn't have to always look the same. And it's interesting to see them all finding different paths.
And we talk a lot about the individualized plans we have for each girl. And I think hearing from both of you, you can really see, like, one's a great reader, right? You have three different daughters who are very different, and they can all explore their own thing. So I think that's a really important thing about the school, is that we do have those individualized plans, and we work with girls in what they're great at, and we work with girls to catch them up if they need help.
Yep.
So the next question, I couldn't narrow down to two of you, because I love hearing stories from children themselves. So I'm going to ask all three of you this next question. What does your child have to say about the school? So Nancy, let's start with you. What do your girls have to say?
Well, both my girls love the school. They really do, for different reasons, because like Aisha's girls, mine are also very different. And, I have one who's very scholastic and one who's very athletic. And the school, they say they love the fact that the school supports them both. The one who's athletic, Laura, she's, obviously not this past year, but in previous years, had a very big commitment to volleyball and a variety of different sports. And she's always said to me, Mom, I love that the teachers are always very supportive of me to achieve those things, but helping me, sort of keep up with the scholastic piece as well. And Natalie always tells me that she loves the challenge that teachers give her. She's one of those kids that's just loves that challenge all the time. Just come at her with challenge. And she's, she appreciates that the teachers give her that opportunity to do that, and maybe to do more and above and beyond what they're doing in class. So I think they say they're both very happy there. I've heard other people ask them, if you were going to go to a different school, where would you go? And they say, nowhere, we're going to stay right here. We're happy here. We love the teachers. We love the environment. We love the friends. So that's their thoughts.
Wonderful. Laura, how about you? What do your children have to say about the school?
Well, my daughter going into kindergarten was absolutely devastated when JK ended. I told her that summer was happening and this was going to be a different summer, because the previous summers she's just gone through, right? Childcare operates all year. So this was her first summer off, absolutely devastated. She cried for about 2 days until she realized that, okay, we actually have some fun things planned this summer and I'm coming back in September. She just speaks so highly of everything that they do. I've been in constant communication with the specialty teachers, because she comes home after a day of having music and she says, Mom, I have to find these songs on Spotify. And she said, we did all these Carnival of the Animals songs. And so she talks about specialty T classes. She talks about all of the lessons that they do and the things that they talk about, right? And again, going back to this empathy thing, they talk a lot about listening to your body when you need a break, and there's a space that you can go to when you are maybe a bit overstimulated, because it can get very exciting in the classroom, and just the piece about resting and caring for your friends. Like, she speaks so highly of all of those lessons. She just loves it. She absolutely loves it. But I think it was telling, when she cried when she finished JK. She was so excited about the last day pictures and all of the stuff that they did, a big party, and then she realized, oh wait, I'm not coming back here for 2 months. What?
Yeah.
And so yeah, she just absolutely loves it. And then my younger one, I mean, she's 2, so just 2 and not even 2.5. And I think what's really telling is that she just walks in, like, she does not even look back. She doesn't even look back to say bye to me. She just walks in. And we try and say, bye, have a good day. And she's just off. She's like, no, I'm on a mission to go to my locker and
Harder
start
on
my
you
day.
than on her, right? Harder
Yeah.
on you than on her. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I know how much fun she's going to have there. And again, at age 2, I mean, she can't tell me. She does tell me the things they do, but what I think really speaks volumes is, oh, who did your hair today? And then she says the name of the teacher. And then she says, she brings home a piece of art, and I say, did anybody help you with that? Yeah, Miss so-and-so. She is always talking about the teachers, and every teacher does something different with her, right? So it's clear to me that they are in there with the girls. They obviously give them the space to do things together, but especially for the 2-year-olds, where it's very independent play still, they are there, saying, oh, like, do you want me to help you draw? Or they're observing what they're drawing, or kind of, just telling stories with them. I know if they're exploring something, then the teacher might come and show them how it can be used for something else, or, so she speaks about them all the time. And just, like I said, she just walks right in. So that tells me all I need to know about how she loves it
there. Loves it there. Yeah. Amazing. Aisha, how about for you?
So my girls are a lot older than Laura's.
Mhm.
They're teenagers. They're
happy
crying,
for
but
summer.
yeah, they're crying, but not because it's summer holidays. My kids, and I've asked them recently, as the older one is looking ahead at university now, and the younger one's just sort of starting middle school. So, what do you think of the schools? We kind of have had those conversations. I think all 3 would say they've got a good education, or they're getting a good education, and they feel strong in order to, like, that they have the foundation to do the kinds of things that they want to do. To some extent, they're exploring that, but they feel like they have a good education. So to me, that's what we want. That was one of our goals. That's why we send our kids to school. Other things that they would say about the school, I think, I think they've got complaints just like other kids about their schools, about everything around them, about their friendships. But there is always, when asked, do you want to go somewhere else? 'Cause we'll do whatever we need to do. They all want to stay at BH. And that means something to me, because it allows me to sift through all the usual kind of ups and downs that go through all school life, but particularly those older years, to say that they're in a good place. And so they're happy.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, one final question before we conclude. For Aisha, we'll start with you. How would you describe the values of the school and the values of the families in the school community?
Yeah, I think, we've heard the word empathy a lot. I think there's empathy. I think that there is a pride in that family, the school itself, the kids, like there's a community, the feeling that provokes pride. But I would say it's sort of combined with humility, because I think you can have a pride and be rah-rah about your school, and it sort of has sometimes a different impact than a certain sense of humility that, we're fortunate to be in this environment. We're fortunate to have each other, or to have the support, or have the education, or have the opportunities, which was a value that is I think important to many of the parents, because that attracts certain parents to this school. So that's something that I see.
Yeah, like always attracts like. Yeah. Laura, how about for you?
So I think again, like the families that I've gotten to know, I mean, I've gotten to know a lot of other parents through the board, but with the childcare and JK families that I've gotten to know very well over the years, I feel as though we all take education very seriously, and I really appreciate that about the other families, that you know, you see it in university more so, you know, people just kind of show up and they do what they need to do and then they leave. But I feel as though the families that we have at the school and the community are just, and the teachers and staff, of course, too, are just, yeah, very take it seriously, but not, we don't take ourselves too seriously, if that makes sense. But we're all really there to do the best thing for the girls. And I see that the families that I've gotten to know are really of that same mindset. And just the value of community, like the teachers, staff, families, parents, girls, you know, without, you know, being too cliquey or anything like that. I think we all just want to get to know each other well. The teachers are so openly communicating with the parents. The teachers communicate with each other. And then the parents just getting to know each other, and the teachers as well. It's just that value of community.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that sums it up nicely. We talk a lot about community. We talk a lot about being part of the family, those sorts of things. It really does feel like that at Balmoral Hall. Yeah. So I want to thank you all, Nancy, Aisha, and Laura. Thank you for joining us today for this session, and appreciate all of the things you had to say about the school. Thank you.